I received the invitation by accident, forwarded to my email by my accountant, who handled the property management. Housewarming party at 847 Riverside Estate. Join us in celebrating our new home. Jason and Victoria Thornton. 847 Riverside Estate. My property. The mansion I purchased 12 years ago as an investment. And Jason was my son. The son who told his fiancée 5 years ago that his mother was dead. The son who blocked my number, returned my letters unopened, and disappeared from my life the moment he met Victoria Hayes, heiress to the Hayes Hotel empire. I sat in my modest downtown apartment, the simple 2-bedroom I preferred over ostentatious displays of wealth, and read the invitation again. They were throwing a party, in my house, celebrating their new home. I called my property manager David. David, talk to me about 847 Riverside. Oh, Ms. Thornton. Yes, your son contacted us 8 months ago. He said he had your permission to live there temporarily while house hunting. We verified his identity. He had your maiden name and knew details about the property. He seemed legitimate, so we approved it per your standing instructions about family use. My standing instructions from 15 years ago, before Jason cut me out of his life. And the mortgage payment he mentioned? The $800,000? That's the property value. He's been telling people he bought it. But ma'am, the deed is still entirely in your name. He hasn't paid a cent. I was silent for a long moment. David, prepare eviction paperwork. I'll serve it personally. Ma'am, are you sure? He's your son. I'm sure. The housewarming party was exactly what I expected. Valets parking Bentleys and Maseratis, women in designer gowns, men in custom suits, champagne fountains, and a string quartet playing Vivaldi in my garden. I arrived in my 15-year-old Honda Civic, wearing a simple black dress from Macy's. The valet looked confused. Are you catering? Guess, I said, handing him my keys. He exchanged glances with his colleague but took the keys. I walked through the front door, my front door, and into the marble foyer I'd had restored 5 years ago. Crystal chandelier overhead. Original artwork on the walls. Everything exactly as I'd left it. Excuse me. A young woman with a clipboard approached. Name? Margaret Thornton. She scanned her list, frowning. I don't see you here. Are you sure you're invited? I'm the owner of the house. Her eyes widened. Oh, you must be Mrs. Thornton's mother. I'll let her know you're not Victoria's mother, the owner of this property. Before she could respond, I heard my son's voice from the grand living room. Everyone, thank you so much for coming. Jason stood on the raised platform near the fireplace, Victoria beside him in a gown that probably cost more than most people's cars. Victoria and I are thrilled to welcome you to our home. This house represents everything we've worked for. I walked into the room. 75 guests turned to look at the plainly dressed woman who clearly didn't belong. Jason's eyes met mine. The color drained from his face. As I was saying, he continued, voice shaking slightly, everything we've built together. Jason. I spoke clearly, my voice carrying across the room. Interesting story you're telling. Victoria looked confused. Jason, who is this woman? Security. I'm Margaret Thornton, I said, walking toward the platform. Jason's mother. The one he told you was dead. The room went completely silent. Victoria laughed, a nervous, tinkling sound. That's impossible. Jason's mother died in a car accident 7 years ago. He showed me the obituary. He showed you a fake obituary. I'm very much alive, and I own this house. That's ridiculous, Victoria snapped. We bought this house 8 months ago. We have the papers. You have a lease agreement, I corrected, signed by my property manager, allowing temporary occupancy. You don't have a deed. You don't have a mortgage. You don't own anything. I pulled out the folder I'd been carrying and handed it to Victoria. Property deed, recorded 12 years ago. Margaret Ann Thornton, sole owner, along with a notice to vacate within 30 days. Victoria opened the folder, her hands trembling. Her face went white as she read, then her eyes rolled back and she collapsed. The room erupted in chaos. People rushed to help Victoria. Someone called for a doctor. Jason stood frozen on the platform, watching his world crumble. A man in his 60s pushed through the crowd, William Hayes, Victoria's father. I recognized him from business magazines. What the hell is going on here? He demanded. Mr. Hayes, I said calmly. I'm Margaret Thornton. I own this property. Your daughter and son-in-law have been living here under false pretenses. Jason said he bought this house. $800,000. He had all the paperwork. He lied. He's been living here rent-free, telling people he purchased it, throwing parties, all while I pay the property taxes, maintenance, and insurance. William's face turned purple. He spun toward Jason, who finally moved from the platform. You told me you bought this house. You showed me the mortgage papers. Victoria's trust fund paid the down payment, $200,000. Jason's mouth opened and closed. I can't explain. You took $200,000 from my daughter and lied about buying a house. William's voice could have cut glass. I was going to buy it, Jason stammered. I just needed time to secure the financing. Mom said I could stay here. I said no such thing, I interrupted. I haven't spoken to you in 5 years. Not since you told Victoria I was dead so she wouldn't question why you had no family at your wedding. Victoria had recovered enough to sit up, supported by friends. Jason, tell me this isn't true. Tell me your mother didn't just serve us an eviction notice at our housewarming party. Victoria, honey, I can fix this. Answer the question, she shrieked. Is this your mother? The one you said died? Jason looked at me, then at Victoria, then at the 75 guests watching this unfold. Yes. Victoria made a sound like a wounded animal. A woman in the crowd spoke up. Wait, if he lied about buying the house and his mother being dead, what else did he lie about? Another voice. Didn't he say he went to Harvard Business School? Jason's face confirmed the answer before he spoke. And that executive position at Hayes Industries? Someone else asked. William Hayes stepped forward. What executive position? Jason works in our marketing department, entry level. Has for 4 years. Never been promoted. The crowd began murmuring, pieces clicking into place. I watched my son stand there, every lie unraveling, every fiction he constructed collapsing around him. Jason, I said quietly. Why? Because you embarrassed me, he exploded. Living in that tiny apartment, driving that old car, working at a community center. Victoria's family has money, power, status. What was I supposed to say? My mom lives like she's poor even though she's not. I live modestly because I choose to, because I don't need to prove anything to anyone. Well, I do. I needed Victoria to see me as someone worthy, someone from her world. Not the son of a woman who shops at thrift stores and volunteers at homeless shelters. Victoria was crying now. You said you came from old money, that your family had estates and investments. We do, I said. Or rather, I do. I have a real estate portfolio worth about $87 million. I own 43 properties across 6 states, including this one. I also own the building where the Hayes Hotel corporate offices are located. Small world. William Hayes's eyes narrowed. Margaret Thornton, NT Properties. You're the landlord who refused to negotiate our lease renewal last year. You wanted to pay below market rate because you assumed I needed the money. I don't negotiate with people who try to take advantage. You own the Hayes building, Victoria whispered. And the restaurant where you had your rehearsal dinner. And the boutique where you bought that dress. And the art gallery where Jason proposed to you. I let that sink in. I built a real estate empire over 30 years. Started with one small rental property and grew it through careful investment and hard work. I lived modestly so I could reinvest profits. I drove old cars so I could buy new buildings. I chose substance over appearance. Then why didn't you help Jason? Someone asked. If you're so rich, why let him struggle? Because he never asked. He cut me out of his life, told his fiancée I was dead, and disappeared. I sent letters, called, tried to reach out. Everything came back unopened. He made his choice. Jason's voice was barely a whisper. You could have told Victoria the truth. You could have exposed me any time. I could have. I chose not to. I wanted to see if you'd come clean. If you choose honesty over fiction. If you choose your real mother over your fake identity. And now. Now you have 30 days to vacate my property. Now Victoria knows the truth. Now everyone here knows who you really are. I paused. Or rather, who you chose to become. William Hayes pulled Victoria to her feet. We're leaving. Victoria, get your things. You're coming home. Daddy, I'm married. To a liar and a fraud. We'll discuss annulment options with the lawyers Monday morning. He looked at Jason with pure contempt. You took $200,000 from my daughter. I want it back. All of it. Plus interest. I don't have it, Jason admitted. I spent it on the wedding, the honeymoon, maintaining this lifestyle. Then you'll pay it back. I'll see you in court. William guided Victoria toward the door. She looked back at Jason once, her face a mixture of heartbreak and disgust. The guests began filing out. The party was clearly over. Within 20 minutes, only Jason and I remained in the grand living room. You destroyed my life, he said bitterly. No, Jason, you destroyed your own life. I just stopped participating in your fiction. What am I supposed to do now? Victoria's leaving me. Her father's suing me. I have no job. They'll fire me as soon as this gets out. I have nowhere to live. You have 30 days here. Use them wisely. Find a job. Find an apartment you can actually afford. Find yourself. And then what? Then you build a real life. Not one based on lies and appearances. Not one that requires you to deny your own mother's existence. A real life, Jason. It's harder than pretending, but it's worth it. Will you help me? I looked at my son, the boy I had raised alone after his father died. The child I'd sacrificed for, worked multiple jobs for, put through college. The man who'd repaid me by erasing me from his history. I'll give you something, I said. I own a small apartment building downtown. Studio units, nothing fancy. There's a vacancy on the 3rd floor. $800 a month. I'll hold it for you if you want it. $800 a month? Mom, I can't live like that. Then you'll figure something else out. But that's what I'm offering. A chance to start over. Honestly this time. He looked around the mansion, the life he built on lies. I'm sorry. For what I said about being embarrassed. For telling Victoria you were dead. For all of it. I know you are. Sorry you got caught anyway. That's not fair. Isn't it? You had 5 years to come clean. You only apologized when the truth came out in the most humiliating way possible. He had no answer. I walked to the door, then turned back. Jason, I didn't come here to destroy you. I came here to save you from yourself. This life you've been living, it was never sustainable. Better to crash now than 10 years from now with kids involved. It doesn't feel like saving. It never does. But someday maybe you'll understand that the worst thing I could have done was let you keep living this lie. I left him standing in the mansion he'd never owned, surrounded by the debris of a party celebrating a fiction. 3 weeks later, my phone rang. Jason. Mom, I took the apartment, the studio downtown. Good. I got a job. Sales position at a furniture company. It's entry level, but it's honest work. That's good too. Victoria's gone. The annulment was finalized yesterday. Her father dropped the lawsuit on the condition I never contact her again. I'm sorry, Jason. Are you? His voice wasn't bitter, just curious. I'm sorry you're hurting. I'm not sorry you're learning this lesson. Silence. Then, would you have dinner with me? At that diner you like. The one you tried to take me to before Victoria and I got engaged. Betty's place. Yeah, I remember now. I told you it was too cheap. That people would see us there. And now? Now I eat there twice a week because it's all I can afford. And you know what? The food's actually really good. I smiled. Sunday at 6. I'll be there. Sunday evening, I arrived at Betty's place to find Jason already in a booth, wearing jeans and a simple button-down shirt. No designer labels. No pretense. You look different, I said, sliding into the seat across from him. I am different. Or maybe I'm finally myself. He pushed a menu toward me. I'm buying. Well, I'm buying within reason. I have a budget now. I'm proud of you. For what? Losing everything? Destroying my marriage? Becoming a cautionary tale? For starting over. That takes courage. We ordered burgers and fries, nothing fancy, and we talked. Really talked. For the first time in 5 years, Jason asked about my life, my properties, my volunteer work, my choices. And I asked about his, not the lies, but the truth underneath. Why he felt so inadequate. Why approval from strangers had mattered more than authenticity with family. I wanted to be someone, he admitted. You already were someone, Jason. You just didn't value who that was. I do now. I have to. It's all I've got left. It's more than you think. As we left the diner, Jason paused. Mom, can I ask you something? Why didn't he just let me have the house? You have 43 properties. What's one mansion to you? Because giving you the house would have meant endorsing the lie, enabling the fiction, watching you build a life on a foundation of sand. I touched his arm. I couldn't save you from falling, Jason, but I could make sure that when you hit bottom, it was on solid ground. He nodded slowly. The studio apartment, the honest job, the real life. Exactly. It's harder than I thought it would be. The best things usually are. We said goodbye in the parking lot. As I drove away, I watched in my rearview mirror as my son got into a 10-year-old Toyota, no more borrowed Maseratis. He looked smaller than he had at that housewarming party, but also more real. And that was worth more than any mansion I owned. The call came at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Is this Rebecca Morrison? A woman's voice, official and tired. Yes. Who's calling? This is Officer Sarah Martinez with the Metropolitan Police Department. We have your daughter, Ashley Morrison, in custody. She requested to make a call, and your number was in her emergency contacts. My daughter. The daughter who hadn't spoken to me in 5 years. The daughter who blocked my number, returned my letters, and told everyone who would listen that I was a terrible mother who'd abandoned her. What are the charges? I asked, already reaching for my clothes. Felony fraud, identity theft, and grand larceny. Bail's been set at $75,000. She's asking if you can help. I looked at the clock. Not even 3 a.m. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Ma'am, about the bail. I'll handle it. Which precinct? She gave me the address. I hung up and stared at my phone for a long moment. 5 years of silence. 5 years of Ashley telling her husband, her friends, anyone who'd listened that her mother was neglectful, absent, someone who chose her career over family. 5 years of watching from a distance as she built a life that didn't include me. And now, at 2:47 a.m., I was her only call. I got dressed, grabbed my briefcase, and drove to the station. The Metropolitan Police Department's downtown precinct was exactly what you'd expect at 3 a.m. Fluorescent lights, tired officers, and the smell of bad coffee and worse decisions. I'm here about Ashley Morrison, I told the desk sergeant. You the mother. He looked me up and down, simple jeans, blazer, no makeup. Not what he expected from someone posting $75,000 bail. I am. She's in holding. Officer Martinez will brief you. He gestured toward a woman approaching from the back. Officer Martinez extended her hand. Ms. Morrison, thank you for coming so quickly. Your daughter's in serious trouble. Tell me everything. We sat in a small interview room while she laid out the charges. Ashley had been arrested for running an elaborate fraud scheme, creating fake investment portfolios, stealing client identities, and embezzling funds from the boutique marketing firm where she worked. The total damages exceeded $300,000. We caught her trying to board a flight to the Cayman Islands, Officer Martinez said. She had $80,000 in cash in her luggage. And her husband, Eric, claims he knew nothing about it. He's cooperating with investigators. I leaned back in my chair. Can I see her? Before you do, Ms. Morrison, the bail is $75,000. That's cash or bond, if you can't. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. Which account should I transfer from? Officer Martinez blinked. I'm sorry. I have the funds. I just need to know where to send them. She stared at me for a moment, then gave me the information. I initiated the transfer, $75,000 from one of my smaller accounts. It barely made a dent. Done, I said. Can I see my daughter now? They brought Ashley to a private meeting room. She looked terrible. Mascara smeared, designer dress rumpled, her carefully maintained image completely shattered. When she saw me, her face cycled through shock, relief, and something that might have been shame. Mom, she whispered. Ashley. We sat across from each other at a metal table. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. I didn't know who else to call, she finally said. Eric's furious. His parents won't help. My friends, she laughed bitterly. Turns out they're not really friends when you get arrested for fraud. How long has this been going on? 2 years. Maybe longer. I don't know anymore. It started small, just borrowing a little from one client to cover another. Then it spiraled. Why? Because Eric's family has money, real money, and I was just the girl from nowhere with the absent mother and no family to speak of. She looked at me with hollow eyes. I needed to prove I belonged in their world. So you committed fraud. So I did whatever it took to maintain the image. She wiped her eyes, smearing her mascara further. They're going to send me to prison, aren't they? Probably. Can you help me? I know we haven't talked in 5 years. I know I said terrible things about you. But you're a lawyer, right? You can. I'm not a lawyer, Ashley. She frowned. But you said, years ago, you said you worked at a law firm. I do work at a law firm. I own it, Morrison and Associates. 12 attorneys, 3 locations, specializing in criminal defense and corporate law. Her mouth fell open. You own a law firm? For 18 years now. Built it from the ground up after your father died. But you never told me. I tried, many times. You were too busy being ashamed of me to listen. Ashley's face crumpled. I told everyone you were a paralegal, that you barely made enough to support yourself, that you were so focused on your little job you ignored me my whole life. I know, I've heard the stories. How? People talk, Ashley, and when your daughter tells everyone her mother is a neglectful career woman who abandoned her, word gets around. I folded my hands on the table. What you didn't know is that half the people you told those stories to were my clients, my colleagues, or people who know exactly who I am. She went pale. Oh God. Eric's parents. His father asked about my family at the engagement party. I told them you were a paralegal who couldn't afford to come. James Morrison is one of my oldest clients. I've handled 3 major cases for his company. He knew exactly who I was. He just didn't correct you. Ashley looked like she might be sick. This whole time, they knew I was lying? This whole time, they watched you lie, just like I did. Why didn't you say something? Why didn't you expose me? I leaned forward. Because I kept hoping you'd stop, that you'd choose truth over fiction, that you'd realize no amount of pretending would make you into someone you're not. I was ashamed of you, she whispered. You wore cheap clothes, drove an old car, lived in that tiny apartment. Eric's mother has a mansion, a driver, designer, everything. And my mother was just ordinary. I live in a modest apartment because I prefer it. I drive an older car because it runs perfectly fine. I wear simple clothes because I'm comfortable. I paused. But if you'd bothered to ask, you'd know I also own a 6-bedroom house in the suburbs that I use for hosting charity events. I have a vintage Mercedes I drive on weekends. I have closets full of designer clothes I wear to court. I just don't need to display it all the time. Why not? Because I don't need to prove anything to anyone. My work speaks for itself. My reputation speaks for itself. I built something real, Ashley, not an image. Something real. She was crying now. I've ruined everything, my marriage, my career, my life, and the one person who could have helped me be better. I pushed away because I was embarrassed. Yes, you did. Can you forgive me? I looked at my daughter, the little girl I'd raised alone, worked 3 jobs to support, put through private school and college, the young woman who repaid me by erasing me from her life story. I can forgive you, but I can't save you from the consequences of your choices. What does that mean? It means I paid your bail because you're my daughter and I love you. But I'm not representing you. I'm not making this go away. I'm not enabling you to keep living in fantasy. But you're a criminal defense attorney. You have to help me. No, Ashley. I don't. I have to let you face what you've done. That's the only way you'll ever become the person you're supposed to be. So what? You're just going to abandon me? Prove me right about everything I said? I'm not abandoning you. I'm here. I posted your bail. I'll make sure you have competent legal representation from one of my partners. I'll visit you, support you, help you through this. But I won't save you from yourself. Not this time. She stared at me, tears streaming down her face. I don't understand. I know, but you will, eventually. Officer Martinez returned to process Ashley's release. As we walked through the station, Ashley suddenly stopped. Mom, the bail, $75,000. How did you have that much money just available at 3 a.m.? I have considerably more than that available, Ashley. I've been investing and saving for 30 years. I'm worth approximately $12 million. She swayed slightly. $12 million? Give or take, the market fluctuates. And you let me think you were struggling. You let me be ashamed of you. I didn't let you do anything. You chose to be ashamed. You chose to believe I was unsuccessful because I didn't flaunt wealth. You chose to lie about me rather than learn the truth. We reached the exit. Eric was waiting outside, his face a mixture of anger and confusion. Ashley, we need to talk, he started, then noticed me. Mrs. Morrison. I didn't expect. Rebecca, please. I think we're past formalities. I turned to my daughter. Ashley, you'll need to meet with the attorney I assigned to you tomorrow at 10 a.m. at my office. Don't be late. Your office? I handed her a business card. Morrison and Associates. The address is on the card. There's also my direct line. Use it if you need anything. Ashley looked at the card. CEO and founding partner, Rebecca Morrison, JD. I do have a law degree, Ashley. I passed the bar 30 years ago, top of my class. Eric was reading over her shoulder. Wait, Morrison and Associates is yours? We looked into hiring them last year for corporate counsel, but their fees were too high. He stopped, realizing what he just said. Yes, we're expensive, because we're the best. I looked at Ashley, which is why I'm not charging you. Family discount. Mom, tomorrow, 10 a.m. Don't make me regret bailing you out. I walked to my car. The 15-year-old Honda Ashley had always been embarrassed by. As I drove away, I could see her in my rearview mirror, standing under the harsh street lights, finally seeing clearly for the first time in years. Ashley showed up at my office the next morning at 9:45 a.m. My assistant brought her to my corner office. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, original artwork on the walls, furniture that whispered rather than shouted money. This is where you work? Ashley asked, looking around. This is where I built my career while you were busy being ashamed of me, yes. She flinched. I deserve that. You deserve worse. But we don't have time for what you deserve. We need to discuss your case. I introduced her to Marcus Chen, one of my senior partners and an excellent criminal defense attorney. We spent 2 hours going over her options. The truth was grim. The evidence was overwhelming, the prosecution motivated, and the damages substantial. Best case scenario, Marcus said, we negotiate a plea deal. Maybe 3 to 5 years if we demonstrate remorse and cooperation. Ashley's face went white. Prison. I'm going to prison. Yes, I said simply. You committed serious crimes, Ashley. There are consequences. But Eric's family has connections. Political connections. Can't we? No. Marcus and I said simultaneously. We don't operate that way, I continued. We defend our clients zealously within the bounds of the law. We don't pull strings or buy justice. That's not who we are. Even for your own daughter? Especially for my own daughter, because if I taught you nothing else, I should have taught you that integrity matters more than image. She was quiet for a long moment. I told everyone you were a bad mother, that you neglected me, that you were selfish and career-obsessed. I know. None of it was true. You worked 3 jobs to send me to private school. You never missed a recital or game. You paid for my college in full so I wouldn't have debt. You did everything right and she broke down completely. I threw it back in your face because I was embarrassed you weren't rich enough to impress Eric's family. And now? Now I find out you're richer than them, more successful than them, more respected than them. And I destroyed our relationship for nothing. I walked around my desk and sat next to her. Not for nothing, Ashley. You learned something important. What's that? That the image you project isn't who you are. That lying about your life doesn't change reality. That eventually the truth comes out, usually at the worst possible moment. At 2:47 a.m., when you get arrested for fraud, she said bitterly. Exactly. Marcus gathered his papers. I'll give you some privacy. Ashley, I'll file the initial motions today. We'll talk strategy next week. After he left, Ashley and I sat in silence. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course. When I called you at 3 a.m. from jail, why did you come? After everything I said about you, everything I did, why help me? Because you're my daughter, because I love you, because walking away from you in your darkest moment would have made everything you said about me true. I don't deserve you. No, you don't. But that's never been the point. Love isn't about deserving. She wiped her eyes. What happens now? Now you face the consequences of your choices. You go to court. You probably go to prison. You lose the life you built on lies and start over with something real. And you? Will you be there? Every step, every court date, every visiting day, if it comes to that. I'm your mother, Ashley. That doesn't change just because you wish it did. She hugged me then, really hugged me, for the first time in 5 years. I'm so sorry for everything. I know, and someday you'll have the chance to be better, to build a life based on truth instead of fiction, to become someone you don't have to lie about. Will I ever be someone you're proud of? I pulled back and looked at her. Ashley, I've always been proud of you. I just wanted you to be proud of yourself, genuinely proud of who you really are, not who you pretend to be. 3 months later, Ashley pleaded guilty to fraud and embezzlement. The judge sentenced her to 4 years in federal prison, with the possibility of parole after 2. I was there when she was sentenced. I was there when they took her away in handcuffs. And I was there every visiting day for the next 2 years, until she was released on parole. When Ashley walked out of prison, she was different, quieter, more genuine, less concerned with appearances, and more focused on substance. She got a job as a bookkeeper at a small nonprofit. She lived in a modest apartment. She drove a used car. She called me every Sunday. And when people asked about her mother, she told them the truth. My mom is the most successful person I know. Not because of her money or her career, but because she loved me enough to let me fail. And that saved my life. The bail money, the $75,000 I wired at 3 a.m., I never asked her to pay it back. Because some investments aren't about money. They're about giving someone you love the chance to find their way home, even when the journey starts at rock bottom. Even when it takes years. Even when all you can do is answer the phone at 2:47 a.m. and say, "I'll be there in 20 minutes." Because that's what real love looks like. Not the image. The truth. The promotion party was held at the Riverside Country Club, all crystal chandeliers and expensive wine. My son-in-law, Marcus, had just been promoted to Senior Director of Operations at Sterling Medical Center, and he'd invited 200 people to celebrate. I sat at a table in the back corner, wearing a simple black dress and the silk scarf I'd chosen to cover my thinning hair. Stage 2 breast cancer, diagnosed 3 weeks ago. I told only my daughter, Vanessa, asking her to keep it private until I was ready to share. Apparently, Marcus had other plans. "Everyone, can I have your attention?" Marcus stood at the podium, champagne glass raised, his smile wide and confident. "Thank you all for coming tonight. This promotion means everything to me. Senior Director at one of the country's top medical centers. Not bad for a kid from Ohio, right?" The crowd applauded. "Now, I know timing is everything in life," Marcus continued, his tongue shifting to something that made my stomach clench. "And speaking of timing, my mother-in-law, Catherine, over there just got some news." Wave to everyone, Catherine. 200 faces turned toward me. I kept my hands in my lap. "Catherine just found out she has cancer," Marcus announced, his voice carrying that particular pitch people use when telling a funny story. "Breast cancer, actually. And you know what her first concern was? That it might interfere with my promotion party." A few nervous laughs rippled through the crowd. I mean, talk about timing, right? I finally get the promotion I've been working toward for 5 years, and boom, cancer diagnosis. He shook his head with exaggerated sympathy. "But don't worry, folks. Catherine assured us she wouldn't let a little thing like cancer ruin my special night. She even wore a wig. Oh wait, no, that's a scarf. My bad." More laughter, louder this time. Vanessa grabbed my hand under the table, her face pale. "Mom, I swear I didn't know he was going to." "It's fine, honey," I whispered, though my chest felt tight. "So let's raise a glass," Marcus continued, enjoying his captive audience. "To timing. May mine continue to be perfect, and may Catherine's get a lot better. To Catherine, may your cancer be as easy to beat as my last performance review." The crowd erupted in laughter and applause. People actually clinked glasses. They were toasting my cancer diagnosis like it was a punchline. Marcus winked at me from across the room, clearly pleased with himself. I sat perfectly still, my hands folded in my lap. That same calm smile I'd maintained through 28 years of medical practice firmly in place. Then a man stood up from the head table, Dr. Richard Chen, CEO of Sterling Medical Center. Marcus's new boss. "Marcus," Dr. Chen said, his voice cutting through the laughter like a scalpel, "before we continue this celebration, I need to clarify something. You mentioned Dr. Catherine Wells?" Marcus's smile faltered slightly. "My mother-in-law, yes. Catherine, she's—" "Dr. Wells," Dr. Chen interrupted. "Not Catherine. Dr. Catherine Wells, Chief of Oncology at Sterling Medical Center." "The Chief of Oncology. Your new direct superior, actually, since the restructuring puts operations under clinical services." The room went completely silent. Marcus's face drained of color. "What?" "Dr. Wells has been Chief of Oncology for 12 years. She's published over 100 peer-reviewed articles on breast cancer treatment. She's the principal investigator on 3 groundbreaking clinical trials currently running at Sterling. She personally treats over 200 patients a year, including several board members and," he paused, "my wife." You could hear a pin drop. "In fact," Dr. Chen continued, walking toward my table, "Dr. Wells is the reason I accepted the CEO position at Sterling. I wanted to work with the best oncology department in the country, and she built it. He reached my table and extended his hand. Dr. Wells, I'm sorry you had to hear your private medical information announced like that. If you'd like to leave, I'll completely understand. I stood slowly, accepting his handshake. Thank you, Richard, but I'm fine. You're sure? Because I can end this party right now. That won't be necessary. I turned to face the room. 200 stunned faces, champagne glasses frozen halfway to lips. Though I would like to say something, if you don't mind. Of course. Dr. Chen stepped back, yielding the floor. I walked to the podium where Marcus stood paralyzed. He moved aside without meeting my eyes. Good evening, everyone, I began. For those who don't know me, I'm Dr. Catherine Wells. I'm Chief of Oncology at Sterling Medical Center, where I've worked for 18 years. I'm also a professor at the medical school, where I teach residents and fellows in hematology-oncology. I pause, letting that sink in. I'm also Marcus's mother-in-law, and yes, I was recently diagnosed with breast cancer. Stage 2, hormone receptor positive, HER2 negative. Caught early, excellent prognosis, currently undergoing treatment. Vanessa was crying silently at our table. Now, Marcus mentioned timing, I continued. And he's right, timing is everything. So let me share some timing with you. 3 weeks ago, when I received my diagnosis, the first person I told was my daughter Vanessa. The second person was my oncologist, Dr. Sarah Martinez, who happens to be one of my former students and is now one of the finest breast cancer specialists in the country. I looked directly at Marcus. I didn't tell you, Marcus, because I knew you'd make it about yourself. Because everything in Vanessa's life has become about you, her career choices, her friendships, her relationship with her own mother. Everything filtered through what matters to Marcus. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. You asked what my first concern was when I got my diagnosis. It wasn't your promotion party. It was my patients, the 247 people currently under my care who depend on me to fight for their lives. It was making sure my clinical trials continued without interruption. It was ensuring that the cancer center I built wouldn't suffer because I needed treatment. I turned back to the room. Many of you work at Sterling. Some of you are my colleagues. Some are my patients. Some are family members of my patients. And I want you to know, I'm going to be fine. Because I have an excellent medical team, a strong support system, and frankly, I'm too stubborn to let cancer win. A few people smiled at that. But I also want to address what just happened here. Marcus thought it was funny to announce my private medical diagnosis to 200 people without my consent. He thought it was entertaining to mock my cancer, my appearance, my treatment. He thought timing was the punchline. I looked at Marcus again. But here's the thing about timing, Marcus. 4 months ago, when you applied for this promotion, do you know who wrote your recommendation letter? His eyes went wide. I did. Richard called me personally and asked my opinion on your suitability for senior director. I told him you were hardworking, dedicated, and showed promise. I recommended you for this position. Marcus swayed slightly, gripping the table. 2 months ago, when your department was being investigated for budget discrepancies, do you know who vouched for your integrity to the board? Mom, no. Vanessa whispered. I did. I told them that while your bookkeeping was sloppy, I believed the errors were honest mistakes, not fraud. I saved your career, Marcus. The room was absolutely silent now. And last week, when you were finalized for this promotion, do you know who was asked to serve on the committee that would evaluate your performance going forward? Marcus's face had gone from pale to gray. Me. As Chief of Oncology, I now sit on the Clinical Operations Oversight Committee, which means I'll be reviewing your decisions, your budget requests, your staffing proposals, and your performance metrics quarterly. Dr. Chen spoke up. That's correct. The restructuring puts all operational decisions through clinical review to ensure patient care isn't compromised by cost-cutting. Dr. Wells chairs that committee. Marcus finally found his voice. Catherine, Dr. Wells, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know you worked at Sterling. Vanessa never mentioned. I mentioned it constantly, Vanessa said, her voice shaking. You never listened. Every time I tried to talk about my mother's work, you changed the subject or checked your phone or made some dismissive comment about Dr. Egos. But you said she worked at a hospital. I said she was chief of oncology at Sterling Medical Center. I said it dozens of times. You just never cared enough to pay attention. Marcus turned to the crowd, desperate now. This is a misunderstanding. I was just trying to lighten the mood, make a joke to ease the tension. There was no tension. I interrupted quietly. You created tension by violating my privacy and mocking my illness for entertainment. That wasn't a joke, Marcus. That was cruelty disguised as humor. A woman at a nearby table stood up. Dr. Wells, I'm Amanda Rodriguez. You treated my mother for ovarian cancer 3 years ago. I remember. Carmen, how is she? Cancer-free, thanks to you. You spent hours with our family, explaining every option, every side effect, every possibility. You held my mother's hand during her worst days. You called our house personally to check on her. Amanda's voice broke. You saved her life. And this person just mocked you for having the same disease you've dedicated your life to fighting. Other people started standing. A man in his 50s. You treated my sister. A younger woman. You saved my daughter. An elderly man. You've been my oncologist for 6 years. More and more people stood, sharing stories, testimonials, moments where I'd helped them or their loved ones through the darkest times of their lives. Marcus watched his promotion party transform into a tribute to the woman he just humiliated. His face cycled through shock, shame, and something that might have been panic. Dr. Chen cleared his throat. Marcus, I think we need to talk. Privately. Now. Sir, I can't explain. My office. Monday morning, 7 a.m. Dr. Chen's voice was ice. We'll be discussing whether someone who shows this level of judgment should be in a senior leadership position at a medical center. Bring your union representative if you have one. Marcus looked at me desperate. Dr. Wells, please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. You did mean to. I said simply. You meant to embarrass me, to diminish me, to make yourself look clever at my expense. You just didn't expect consequences because you never bothered to learn who I actually am. I'll do anything. Please. This promotion is everything to me, and my health is everything to me. My patients are everything to me. My daughter is everything to me. But you made it clear tonight what your priorities are. Vanessa appeared at my side. Mom, can we go, please? Of course, honey. I turned to Dr. Chen. Richard, thank you for the support. I'll see you Monday for our clinical review meeting. Looking forward to it, Dr. Wells. And Catherine? He touched my arm gently. My wife wanted me to tell you. She's rooting for you. We all are. Tell Sarah I said thank you. As Vanessa and I walked toward the exit, people reached out to squeeze my hand, offer support, and share their own cancer stories. The party that was supposed to celebrate Marcus had become something entirely different. At the door, I turned back. Marcus stood alone at the podium, his promotion party in ruins around him, watching his career potentially crumble because he couldn't resist making a joke at someone else's expense. Marcus, I called out. One more thing about timing. He looked up, hopeful, desperate. My first chemotherapy session is scheduled for next Tuesday at 2 p.m., which is exactly when you were supposed to present your first operational report to my committee. I'll be rescheduling that meeting, obviously. We'll let you know when we can fit you in. His hope died. Good luck with your new position. You're going to need it. In the car, Vanessa cried while I drove. Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have defended you. I should have stopped him. I should have. You're leaving him, aren't you? I asked gently. She nodded, tears streaming. I can't stay married to someone who would do that. Who could be that cruel? Who knows I'm terrified of losing you and still thought it was funny. Good, you deserve better. I should have seen it sooner. All the signs were there. The way he dismissed your calls. The way he forgot to invite you to things. The way he made fun of your work clothes or your car or your apartment. What apartment? He thought you lived in some tiny apartment because you never invited us over. He didn't know about the house. I smiled slightly. The house your grandfather left me? The 4-bedroom colonial where you grew up? That house? I told him about it. He just assumed I was exaggerating. He said doctors don't make that much money, that you probably lived modestly because you weren't very successful. And you believed him? No. But I stopped correcting him. It was easier than fighting. She wiped her eyes. I'm moving back home, if that's okay, just until I figure things out. Your room is exactly as you left it. Even the embarrassing boy band posters? Especially those. We drove in silence for a while. Then Vanessa spoke quietly. Mom, are you scared? About the cancer? Terrified, I admitted. But I'm also a realist. I caught it early. I have an excellent treatment plan. My prognosis is good, and I'm going to fight like hell. Can I come to your appointments? Be there with you. I'd like that. And Mom, what Marcus said about your hair, you look beautiful. Scarf or no scarf, cancer or no cancer, you're the strongest person I know. I reached over and squeezed her hand. When we got home, I made tea while Vanessa called her friend to arrange moving her things out of the house she'd shared with Marcus. I listened to her voice in the next room, stronger now, more certain, reclaiming herself. My phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Chen. Board meeting Monday. They want to discuss Marcus's future. Your input would be valuable. I replied, I'll be there. After my treatment planning appointment. Another text came from Dr. Martinez, my oncologist and former student. Heard what happened. You okay? I'm fine. See you Tuesday. Wouldn't miss it. Also, I'm bringing the good anti-nausea meds and ice cream. You're my favorite student. I'm your only student who became your doctor. Doesn't count. I smiled at my phone. Vanessa appeared in the doorway. Mom, can I ask you something? Are you going to get Marcus fired? I thought about it. About the cruelty he'd shown. About the violation of my privacy. About the mockery he'd made of my illness. No, I said finally. I'm going to let him keep his job. But I'm going to make him earn it. Every single day. Every report. Every decision. Every budget request. He's going to have to justify it to me and my committee. He's going to have to prove he deserves to work at a hospital that exists to help people, not humiliate them. That's more generous than he deserves. Maybe. But I didn't become chief of oncology by being cruel. I did it by being better than the people who underestimated me. He definitely underestimated you. Everyone does, I said, right up until they don't. Vanessa smiled through her tears. I love you, Mom. I love you too, sweetheart. That night, lying in bed, I thought about Marcus's joke, about timing, about how he thought it was funny that my cancer diagnosis coincided with his promotion. He was right that timing mattered, just not in the way he thought. The timing of my diagnosis meant I caught it early, survivable. The timing of his promotion meant he'd face oversight from someone who now had every reason to scrutinize his every move. And the timing of his cruelty meant it happened in front of 200 witnesses who would never forget what kind of man he really was. Timing is everything, and his had just run out. The annual Thompson family reunion was held at the Lakeside Country Club, the same one my family had been members of for 30 years. I hadn't been to one in 5 years, not since I'd stopped trying to prove myself to people who had already decided I wasn't worth their time. But this year was different. This year, I had a reason to attend. I walked through the entrance in a simple black dress and flats, carrying my leather briefcase. The outdoor pavilion was decorated with banners and balloons, and the tables were laden with catered food. About 60 people milled around, aunts, uncles, cousins, and their families. My brother David spotted me first. His face shifted from surprise to discomfort. Ava, I didn't think you'd come. Got the invitation. Thought I'd stop by. I smiled pleasantly. Before David could respond, his wife Jennifer appeared, her face already twisted in disgust. She was wearing designer everything, dress, shoes, jewelry, all of it screaming, "Look at me." What are you doing here? Jennifer's voice carried across the pavilion, drawing attention. Nobody wants you here. Seriously, just get lost. The conversation around us died. 60 pairs of eyes turned to watch. Hello, Jennifer. Nice to see you too. I kept my voice calm. Don't nice to see you me. You know you're not welcome. She turned to address the crowd. Can you believe this? Shows up after 5 years like she belongs here. It's a family reunion. I pointed out. I'm family. Family doesn't abandon everyone for 5 years. Jennifer crossed her arms. Family doesn't act like they're too good for everyone else. My Uncle Richard laughed from his table. She's got a point, Ava. You disappeared. Can't blame people for moving on without you. Without even a phone call, my Aunt Susan added. Very rude. I could have pointed out that my phone worked both ways. That I'd sent party cards for 3 years before giving up. That not once had any of them reached out to ask why I'd distanced myself. But I didn't. You're right, I said instead. I have been distant. I apologize for that. Jennifer blinked, clearly not expecting agreement. Then her mean smile returned. Well, it's too late now. We're all doing great without you. David got promoted to VP at Morrison Tech. We just bought a new house. 4,000 square feet. We're doing amazing. I'm happy for you both. Meanwhile, what have you been doing? Still working that little administrative job? Jennifer's voice dripped with false sympathy. Still living in that tiny apartment? Several people chuckled. I saw my cousin Amanda whispering to her husband, both smirking. Actually, I said, I've made some career changes. Oh, let me guess. You're a manager now. Jennifer laughed. How impressive. David makes $180,000 a year as VP. What are you making? 50, 60. Something like that. See? Jennifer turned to the crowd. This is what happens when you don't apply yourself. When you settle for mediocrity. No ambition, no drive, no success. Jennifer, maybe we should. David tried to interrupt. No, I think everyone needs to hear this. Ava used to act like she was better than all of us. Too smart, too good for the family business. And where did it get her? Nowhere. While we're all thriving, she's working a dead-end job and living paycheck to paycheck. How do you know I'm living paycheck to paycheck? I asked curiously. Because you're wearing a dress from Target and carrying a briefcase that's seen better days. Because you drove up in a 5-year-old Honda. Because everything about you screams struggling. I looked down at my outfit. She wasn't wrong. The dress was from Target. The briefcase was old, a gift for my college graduation. And yes, my car was a 2019 Honda Civic. Appearances can be deceiving, I said. Oh please, don't give me some inspirational poster quote. You're a loser, Ava. Always have been, always will be. And honestly? Nobody wants you here. You're bringing down the mood. So why don't you just leave? The pavilion was silent. Everyone was watching, waiting for me to either fight back or slink away in humiliation. I did neither. Instead, I set my briefcase on the nearest table and opened it. You're right about something, Jennifer. I have been quiet about my career. I don't like to brag. I pulled out a folder. But since you've made such a public issue of it, I think it's time to clear a few things up. What are you doing? David asked, his voice nervous. I opened the folder and pulled out the first document. This is a press release that went out this morning. You might not have seen it yet. Morrison Technologies, the company where David works, has been acquired by Pinnacle Investment Group. So, Jennifer said, what does that have to do with anything? Pinnacle Investment Group is my company. I let that sink in. I founded it 7 years ago. We specialize in acquiring mid-sized tech companies, restructuring them, and improving efficiency. The silence was absolute. You're lying, Jennifer said, but her voice wavered. I pulled out another document. This is the acquisition contract signed yesterday. We paid $127 million for Morrison Technologies. The deal closed at 5 p.m. yesterday. David grabbed the paper, his hands shaking. His face went white as he read. That means, I continued, I now own the company where David works. Where several of you work, actually. I looked around. Uncle Richard, you're in sales there. Cousin Tom, you're in IT. Aunt Susan's husband Greg is in accounting. This is a joke, Jennifer insisted, but she was losing confidence. This is the corporate structure. I pulled out another page. I'm the majority shareholder and CEO of Pinnacle Investment Group. We have a portfolio of 17 companies with a combined value of $890 million. This acquisition brings it to just over $1 billion. I turned to David. I've been reviewing personnel files all week. You were promoted to VP 3 months ago. Congratulations. Unfortunately, the VP of sales position is redundant in our organizational structure. That role will be eliminated during the restructuring. You're firing me? David's voice cracked. Not firing, making your position redundant. You'll receive a generous severance package, 6 months' salary. Standard for executive-level restructuring. You can't do this, Jennifer shrieked. This is revenge. This is illegal. It's neither. It's business. Morrison Tech was losing money, bad management, bloated staff, poor strategic decisions. We're fixing that. Unfortunately, that means some positions won't survive the restructuring. I pulled out a list. These are the positions being eliminated. VP of Sales, 3 sales managers, 2 IT specialists, and 1 accounting supervisor. I looked at my family members. Uncle Richard, Tom, Greg, you're on this list. You'll each receive severance based on your tenure. Uncle Richard, who'd been laughing at me 20 minutes ago, now looked like he might be sick. Why are you doing this? David asked quietly. To hurt me? I'm doing this because Morrison Tech was a good investment opportunity. The acquisition had been in the works for 6 months, long before I decided to come to this reunion. I paused. Though I'll admit the timing worked out. This is because we weren't nice to you, Aunt Susan accused. You're punishing us for. For what? For ignoring me? For excluding me? For 5 years of making it clear I wasn't welcome unless I met your standards? I shook my head. No, I'm not that petty. This is business. You all just happened to work for a company that needed better management. But David's position, Jennifer started, is redundant. We already have a VP of sales at Pinnacle who'll oversee Morrison's sales division. David's role was created by the previous CEO to justify a salary increase. It doesn't actually contribute to the company's success. I pulled out another document. However, David, there is another option. We have an opening for a senior sales associate. It's not VP level, it's the position you had before your promotion. The salary is $95,000, about half of what you're making now. But it's a real job with real responsibilities. If you're interested, you can apply. Apply? David repeated. For my old job? It's not your job anymore, but you can apply for the equivalent position in the new structure. Whether you get it depends on your qualifications and interview. Jennifer's face was red with rage. You smug bitch. You think you're so superior? No, Jennifer. I don't think I'm superior. I think I'm successful. There's a difference. I started gathering my documents. I came here today to give you all the courtesy heads up. The official announcements go out Monday morning. I wanted to tell you in person, as family, before you heard it through company channels. Bullshit, Jennifer spat. You came here to humiliate us. I came here because I was invited to a family reunion. You're the one who chose to make a scene. I closed my briefcase. Everything I've done today is standard business practice. The restructuring would have happened whether I came to this reunion or not. I just thought it would be better coming from me first. You expect us to believe that? Uncle Richard stood up, his face flushed. You show up here, get insulted, and suddenly you're restructuring the company? That's not coincidence. You're right. It's not coincidence. The acquisition was planned for months. Me coming here today was planned for 1 week, after I knew the deal was closing but before the announcements went public. I looked at him directly. I came to give you time to prepare, to update your resumes, to line up new opportunities before the news breaks. That's more warning than Morrison Tech's previous owners gave anyone. How generous, he said sarcastically. It is, actually. I could have let you find out Monday morning with everyone else. I could have sent the termination notices by email. Instead, I came here in person to tell you face to face, because despite everything, you're still family. Some family, Aunt Susan muttered. Yes, some family. The family that excluded me from gatherings. That laughed when Jennifer called me a loser. That never once asked why I stopped coming around or if I was okay. I picked up my briefcase. I built a company worth $1 billion and none of you knew because none of you asked. You were too busy assuming I was a failure. We didn't know, David started. Because I didn't tell you. Because I was tired of trying to prove myself to people who'd already decided I wasn't worth their time. I stopped coming to reunions because every year was the same. Jennifer making snide comments, everyone comparing salaries and houses, nobody actually caring about each other. Just performance and judgment. I looked around at all of them. I'm successful now, very successful. But I was successful 5 years ago too, when I stopped coming. I just stopped caring whether you knew about it. Then why tell us now? Amanda asked. Because you deserve to know that your jobs are ending. Because despite everything, I didn't want you blindsided. I paused. And maybe a small part of me wanted you to know that the loser you all dismissed is now your boss. That's petty, Jennifer said. Probably. I'm human. I headed for the exit, then turned back. David, that senior sales position is a real offer. You're good at sales. You just got promoted beyond your competence level. If you want to apply, send your resume to HR Monday morning. I've instructed them to review it fairly. No favoritism, but no prejudice either. And if I don't get the job? Then you don't get it. Take the severance, find something else. You'll be fine. You're talented when you're doing actual work instead of playing VP. I started walking again. Ava, wait. It was my father's voice. He'd been silent through the entire confrontation, sitting at a back table. Is this really necessary? The acquisition? Yes. Morrison Tech needed new ownership. The restructuring? Also yes. The company was overstaffed with inflated salaries. These changes would happen regardless of who bought it. But you bought it. I did, because it was a good investment, because I saw potential the previous owners missed, because that's what I do. I find struggling companies and fix them. And it had nothing to do with David working there. I thought about lying, about maintaining the fiction that this was purely business. I didn't know David worked there when we started the acquisition process, I said honestly. We identified Morrison Tech as a target 8 months ago, based on financials and market position. I didn't review the employee roster until last month. When I saw David's name, I could have backed out. I could have assigned this acquisition to one of my partners. But I didn't. Why not? Because it was a good deal. Because my personal feelings don't override good business decisions. And maybe because I was curious what would happen if I actually showed up here with leverage instead of just trying to blend in. My father stood up and walked over to me. He looked older than I remembered, grayer, more tired. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, "for not standing up for you, for letting them make you feel unwelcome. You're my daughter and I should have done better." Something in my chest tightened. "Yeah, you should have. Can we start over? Can I take you to lunch sometime? Just us." No Jennifer, no judgment, just a father and his daughter talking. I studied his face, looking for sincerity. I found it mixed with regret and something that might have been shame. "Maybe," I said. "Call me next week. We'll see." "I will." He paused. "I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago." "Yes, you should have." I adjusted my briefcase. "But thank you for saying it now." I left the reunion and drove back to my real life, my penthouse apartment, my corner office, my company that I'd built from nothing while my family dismissed me as a failure. Monday morning, the restructuring announcements went out. David, Uncle Richard, Tom, and Greg all received their termination notices. Jennifer called me 17 times. I didn't answer. David sent me his resume for the senior sales position. I forwarded it to HR with instructions to treat it like any other application. He interviewed, and they hired him. He really was good at sales when he wasn't trying to be an executive. Uncle Richard found a job at a competitor within 3 weeks. Tom went into consulting. Greg took early retirement. And Jennifer? She posted on Facebook about family betrayal and successful people who forget where they came from. I blocked her. My father did call. We had lunch. It was awkward but honest. He apologized again. I accepted, cautiously. We agreed to monthly dinners, just us, rebuilding something that had been broken for too long. Morrison Technologies, under Pinnacle's management, increased revenue by 34% in 6 months. The restructuring worked. The company was healthier, more efficient, and more profitable. I never went to another family reunion. But I did send cards, and this year, I included a photo of myself in my office with a caption, "Wishing you all a successful year. Ava." Because I wasn't a loser. I never had been. They'd just been too busy judging to notice. The Instagram post was supposed to be private, just for my close friends list. But my real estate agent had tagged my company in the caption. "Proud to represent Summit Holdings' latest acquisition. Portfolio value now at $8.8 million. Congratulations, Morgan." By the time I noticed, the post had 847 likes and my phone was exploding. My father's text came at 2:34 p.m. "Emergency family meeting. Tonight. 6 p.m. This is urgent." 1 year. That's how long it had been since my wedding, the embarrassing budget ceremony my sister Ashley had mocked in front of everyone. But 5 hours after 3 of my properties appeared on social media, suddenly, it was an emergency. Let me explain something about my family. We're the Sullivans. Old money, or so we pretended. My father ran a consulting firm that mostly survived off his trust fund. My mother chaired charity galas she couldn't actually afford to donate to. And my sister Ashley married a finance bro named Chad and lived in a meat mansion they were definitely over-leveraged on. Then there was me, Morgan, the practical one. The one who went to state school for finance instead of a private university for networking. The one who married Jake, a firefighter, instead of someone from the country club. My wedding had been at a community center. Simple decorations, potluck reception, a friend's band playing for free. We'd spent $3,000 total because Jake and I were saving for a down payment on our first investment property. Ashley had made sure everyone knew what she thought. "This is so embarrassing," she'd whispered loudly to our mother during the ceremony. "A community center? With folding chairs? What will people think? At least the food is, Homemade, Mom had replied, her voice dripping with pity. After the reception, Ashley posted on Facebook, "Attended a wedding today. Really makes you appreciate when people don't settle for less. Hashtag standards matter, hashtag quality over quantity." She tagged me. I ignored it. I had bigger things to focus on, like the duplex Jake and I were closing on the following week. Over the next year, while Ashley posted about her luxury lifestyle and my parents pretended their financial situation wasn't deteriorating, I built something real. That first duplex led to a second property, then a small apartment building, then a foreclosed mansion I renovated and flipped for a $400,000 profit. I reinvested everything, lived frugally, and learned the real estate game from the ground up. My company, Summit Holdings LLC, now owned 5 properties worth a combined $8.8 million. My personal net worth was $2.3 million. And Jake and I had just closed on our dream project, a historic estate we planned to restore. I told my family none of this. After the wedding, after Ashley's post and my mother's pitying looks, I quietly distanced myself. Occasional texts, skipped dinners, always too busy with work stuff. They never asked what that work stuff actually was. Until today. I arrived at my parents' house at 6:15 p.m., late but deliberately so. Ashley's Mercedes was already in the driveway, so was Chad's Tesla. The whole family assembled for an emergency. My mother opened the door, her smile strained. "Morgan, darling, come in. We've been waiting." The living room looked the same as always, expensive furniture they'd bought 20 years ago, carefully maintained to project success. But I noticed things now. The worn carpet edges, the outdated curtains, the subtle signs of financial strain. There she is. Ashley stood up, her smile fake and bright. The real estate mogul. "Hi, Ashley. We saw your post," Dad said, getting straight to it. He'd never been one for small talk. Or rather, your agent's post. $8.8 million in properties? That's the portfolio value, yes. "Why didn't you tell us?" Mom asked, sounding wounded. "We're your family. You never asked." Awkward silence. "Well," Chad cleared his throat, "that's impressive, Morgan. Really impressive. Actually, Ashley and I have been looking at investment opportunities. We'd love to discuss partnering with you." "No." He blinked. "I haven't even explained the opportunity. I'm not interested in partnering with you." "Morgan, don't be rude," Mom chided. "Chad is family." Chad spent my entire wedding reception telling anyone who listened that I was settling by marrying a firefighter. So no, we won't be doing business together. Ashley's face flushed. He was just being honest. "About what?" "That Jake makes an honest living saving lives instead of gambling with other people's money?" "Yeah, real settling there. This is about the wedding, isn't it?" Ashley's voice rose. "You're still mad about one little comment. You called my wedding embarrassing on social media while I was still in my dress." "I was just being honest. It was at a community center, Morgan, with folding chairs and potluck food. It was objectively cheap. It was what Jake and I could afford while saving for our first investment property. The one that started everything. The one that led to the $8.8 million you're all suddenly interested in." Dad cleared his throat. "Morgan, we're not here to relitigate the past. We wanted to discuss something important, an opportunity that could benefit the whole family." "What opportunity?" My parents exchanged looks. "The Whitmore estate," Mom said. "You know how we've always loved that property. It's been in the Whitmore family for generations, but old Mrs. Whitmore passed away, and her children are selling." I knew the estate. 6 acres, a historic mansion, stunning views. I'd actually viewed it last month. "The asking price is $2.4 million, Dad continued. "It's our dream home. We've always imagined retiring there, hosting family gatherings." "You can't afford it," I said simply. His face reddened. "We have resources." "Dad, I know about the second mortgage on this house. I know about the credit card debt. I know the consulting firm is barely breaking even." I pulled his business records. They were public. "You can't afford a $2.4 million estate. Which is why we're asking for your help," Mom said quickly. "A family investment. You could purchase it and we'd all—" "No. Morgan, be reasonable." "I am being reasonable. You want me to buy you a mansion when you couldn't be bothered to celebrate my wedding without mocking it." "That's not fair," Ashley protested. "We came to your wedding and complained about it the entire time, and posted about it on social media. and made sure everyone knew you thought I was an embarrassment to the family. We just wanted better for you, Mom said. The community center, the budget reception, it reflected poorly on all of us. No, it reflected that Jake and I had priorities beyond impressing people. We wanted a marriage, not a performance. And while you were all busy judging us, we were building something real. I pulled out my folder. Since we're talking about the Whitmore estate, I should probably tell you, I bought it. Closed 3 days ago. 2.2 million, cash offer. The room went silent. You, what? Dad's voice was barely a whisper. I bought your dream house. The one you can't afford. The one you called me here to beg me to buy for you. I pulled out the deed. It's mine now. Ashley's face went from red to white. You bought it out from under us? That's cruel. No, Ashley. Cruel is calling your sister's wedding embarrassing. Cruel is mocking her choices on social media. Cruel is only caring about her when she has something you want. That's cruel. What are you going to do with it? Mom asked, tears streaming down her face. Live there? Flip it. I pulled out another document. I'm donating it to the city. The Whitmore estate will become a public park, a free community center, an event space for people who can't afford fancy venues. Maybe some bride can get married there in folding chairs without being called an embarrassment. You can't, Mom whispered. That property is worth millions, and I'm giving it away. Because some things matter more than money or status or what people think. I stood up. Jake and I don't need a mansion. We have the home we bought together. The life we built ourselves. The marriage we celebrate every day without caring if it's good enough for people who only love us conditionally. Morgan, please, Dad tried. We made mistakes, but we're still your family. Family shows up. Family celebrates your happiness, not judges your budget. Family doesn't disappear until you're useful. I gathered my papers. You spent a year ignoring me because I wasn't living up to your standards. Now you want back in because I exceeded them. That's not family. That's opportunism. We love you, Mom sobbed. You love what I have. There's a difference. I walked to the door, then turned back. The Whitmore estate will have its grand opening in 6 months. There will be a dedication ceremony. You're all invited to attend, as guests. Like everyone else. What about us? Ashley asked quietly. What about this house? Are you going to reveal you own this too? I don't own this house, but I do know your mortgage company is starting foreclosure proceedings. You have about 60 days before you lose it. I paused. You might want to downsize. I hear community centers rent by the hour. The drive home felt surreal. Jake was waiting on our porch, our modest, normal, perfect porch. How did it go? He asked. I told them about the estate and what I'm doing with it. The park. The park. I sat down next to him. They thought I'd buy them the mansion, share the wealth, bring them into my success. But you built it without them. Because of them. Every time Ashley called my wedding cheap, every time Mom pitied my choices, every time Dad dismissed my career, it fueled me. I wanted to prove I could succeed on my terms. And you did. I did. I leaned against him. They asked why I didn't tell them about my success. Like I owe them updates on my life after they spent a year making me feel small. Jake kissed my forehead. You know they'll show up at the dedication. Take credit. Tell people they always supported you. Let them. The park will have a plaque. In honor of all the couples who celebrate their love without apology, regardless of budget or status. That'll tell the real story. 6 months later, the Whitmore Estate Public Park opened to massive fanfare. The local news covered it. The mayor spoke, and yes, my family was there. Ashley tried to hug me for the cameras. I stepped aside. My parents tried to give speeches about always knowing Morgan was special. The event coordinator politely informed them the program was full. But what mattered was the young couple who booked the community center for their wedding the following month, the one who cried when they saw the space, telling me they'd been planning a courthouse wedding because they couldn't afford anything else. You can have folding chairs if you want, I told them. There's no shame in celebrating love simply. They thanked me, they meant it. And that gratitude, from strangers who understood what I'd built and why, meant more than my family's hollow appreciation ever could. Because I didn't build an empire to impress people who'd already decided I wasn't good enough. I built it to prove that their standards were never the ones that mattered.